Joining me now to discuss this is Tim Montgomerie, former Number 10 advisor and founder of Conservative Home, representing grassroots Tory voters. Good morning to you, Tim.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us.
By the way, I'm not in my country house. It may look like I'm in a country house, but I've got a bit of drilling going on in my own home, so I've come to a local pub to talk to you. So,
I was going to say you look like you're in a castle. It looks very nice.
I know it does. Well, it is Salisbury. We have some lovely places in Salisbury.
Looking very, very good. I think Claire Pistol's also joining us, also wishing she was in the pub. But let's come back to the matter in hand. Tim, I want to talk to you a little bit about Tory leadership trials and tribulations and what Kemi Badenoch had to say yesterday. But in terms of the House of Lords now having the second reading of the Rwanda bill, this is the safety of Rwanda bill. We had already had a rebellion from sort of the left and the right of the Conservative Party in the Commons. How much damage can peers do to this bill and how much can they delay it?
Well, I think they will amend the legislation. The Liberal Democrats in the House of Lords are particularly keen to cause trouble, I think. But I think Labour won't sabotage the bill. I think Labour are very aware of the public support for control of immigration. I'm not sure the public are quite so supportive of the Rwanda bill, which, as we all know, is getting out of control cost-wise. But I don't think Labour will want to be seen to torpedo something which Rishi Sunak has staked so much of his reputation on. I think they would rather see the Rwanda bill go down because of legal action by judicial decisions rather than by votes by Labour peers in the upper house.
Or indeed, even in the end, if it actually went through and the Rwanda bill. Look, if we're ever actually going to see any of these flights take off, when it's just a few dozen or even just a few hundred people, how that will not act as a deterrent, as I don't think it will, to people paying the people smugglers to come across from Calais. Either way, Labour is laughing.
Yeah, well, it's an extraordinary failure by this government. I don't think Brexit would have happened if the Tories hadn't promised to control immigration. I don't think a lot of the election victories that the Conservatives enjoyed over recent years would have happened without the Tories' very strong position, strong rhetoric on immigration.
I was just going to say, they talk a great game, and then you discover that 745,000 more people have come to the country legally than have left the country last year, but that's apparently the Tories controlling immigration.
They will pay a heavy price, and I'm afraid deservedly so, at the general election. And even if Rwanda bill, Julia, sails through the House of Lords, and the judicial interventions aren't significant, Rwanda is only actually open to accepting a relatively small number of migrants. So even if the policy passes, and I think it probably won't pass the judicial interventions, it won't really make the impact on immigration that the British people rightly expect the Conservative government to have delivered, but we haven't.
Well, indeed. Well, we know this is a key plank of the Prime Minister's 5 pledges he wanted to be judged on. Only one going well so far, and that's inflation, and no one thought he had any particular control over that. And of course, it could still go up again, given what's happening in the Red Sea and the Middle East as well. But let's talk about where he is in terms of leadership challenges. We've obviously seen some concern in Number 10 Downing Street about sort of various different groups of Conservatives getting together. Lots of criticism, lots of sniping from former ministers, the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, former Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick, former Prime Minister Liz Truss, on even things like the disposable vaping ban, and just think this is very unconservative. Don't remember her at any point standing up against lockdown measures, but there we are. But Kemi Badenoch was out doing the media rounds yesterday and was forced to deny that the leadership plotters had anything to do with her. They're not my friends, she said. But who is this phalanx of Tories who are supposedly plotting, paying for, Telegraph polls, super polls showing that the entire party faces annihilation if they keep Rishi Sunak and keep on the same path? Who are the people behind this?
Well, that's a big question. Of course, who are the Tory plotters? Every single Tory MP, I think, Julia, is in some way a plotter in some form. They're all in a state of despair about the party's fortunes. But I think most of them, which was clear from the reaction last week to Simon Clarke's intervention, don't think a leadership challenge is going to help the party, but all of them are sort of constantly talking into their beer, talking into their cups of tea, and just moaning about the state of the party. And none of them are enthusiastic about Rishi Sunak's leadership, but they think that the country would turn away in disgust if yet again the party changed the leader and without an obvious alternative to him.
And yet, Kemi Badenoch seems to be the favourite of the party. I mean, one thing about Rishi Sunak is he, obviously wasn't elected by the party faithful. They'd chosen Liz Truss. She was ousted. He was then chosen by MPs, but didn't get the sort of the thumbs up from the party membership, who would have preferred, according to the polling by your former company, Conservative Home, someone like Kemi Badenoch. But she's busy saying, "Well, not me, Gov."
Yeah, well, and she would, wouldn't she? Because you never want to be the assassin who wields the knife against a sitting leader if you want to take over. That's what Michael Heseltine famously did in 1990. He was the one that brought down Margaret Thatcher, but the Conservative Party couldn't then bear the thought that the person who brought down the Iron Lady would become Prime Minister themselves. And so John Major ended up as the occupant of number 10 Downing Street. And so Kemi Badenoch would say this, but I think there is probably a lot of truth to what she says as well. I think the Conservative Party is in such bad trouble, Julia. Who would want to take over it at the moment?
Well, yeah, that's the key point, isn't it? I mean, you want to take over, to perhaps rebuild the party after an electoral defeat and then have a chance of, winning the next election. I mean, again, I think it's, on one level, it's going to be ghastly having a Labour government under Keir Starmer, because I think virtually everything they stand for is detrimental to the future of this country. But it's also going to be highly amusing when they are, day after day, completely and utterly failing to deliver what so many people who are going to vote Labour will think they are going to be able to deliver. They're not going to have any money. They're not going to be able to do an awful lot of things they think they want to do. And I think it's going to be quite interesting watching that. So that may be a good deal to be Tory leader after the election. But before the election, you're going to be the one blamed for the defeat, aren't you?
And I think that's what Simon Clarke was probably wanting to position himself as last week. It looks like he's very isolated at the moment. He stood up and said, time to get rid of the leader, and no one joined his crusade. But if the Tories really lose badly on November the 14th, which I think is the very much favoured date for the general election, he will be able to say, well, I did tell you so, and no one else, took adopted my brave stance.
Easier said than
he,
done.
of course, personally will probably lose. Yeah, he personally will probably lose his seat, though, because he has a marginal as well.
If you had to put money on it, is there going to be a change of leadership before the next general election? Is there going to be a major change of direction?
Julia, I've learned not to do predictions in British politics. But look, I think the key moment, there's by-elections coming up, which the Tories will lose very badly. That will be a moment when you could see a test. I think probably it's likely will be the local elections in May. If the Tories do incredibly badly, then I think that might be the moment when the assassins try to strike. There is another theory, of course, is why, you remember John Major, when speculation was encircling him, he decided to call a leadership contest himself to sort of, to exercise the demons from the party. And it may well be that Rishi Sunak will decide to say, look, all this speculation, I'm going to kill it, back me now or sack me. Of course, the party may sack him, but I think he may choose. Or
then he'd be safe for another year. Very interesting. Well, we shall see. It'll keep us busy. Tim Montgomerie, a former number 10 advisor, founder, of course, of Conservative Home. Thank you. Joining us from his castle, although I don't think it was a castle because I think I saw a bus go by. No, he's in the local pub. Thank you very much indeed. Now, still with me is former Home Office Special Advisor Claire Purcell. And let's just talk about the Tory runners and riders leadership things. Look, you never want to be the person everyone's speculating about, other than, if you're Kemi Badenoch, how nice to know that the party faithful like you. They like what she says. She talks a good game. She absolutely, she's on the money when it comes to all the woke issues and Rwanda and all of that. But it's not probably very helpful to her career to be constantly seen as the queen across the water.
Well, that's right. And she isn't that popular amongst her colleagues. So it may well seem that she's got the lead on everybody, but she came fourth in the Conservative leadership contest of, oh, was it only last year?
Here's the thing, Boris Johnson wasn't remotely popular. No one liked him. He was, I mean, literally had like 3 friends as among Tory MPs, but he was popular with the membership and he was popular in the country. And that meant that MPs went, OK, in 2019, we'll have him.
But not every single member of the party, as in outside of Westminster, are going to be in favour of what Kemi Badenoch brings.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting when you look at the splits sort of down the middle. There are those who think she's the answer and there are those who think she would be the worst thing that could happen. I mean, you know, everybody's got an opinion on this. There are so many more contenders. And I did like Tim's point that every single Tory MP is a plotter. I've seen it in action over the last week.
Again, it's not just that they want to stay in government, or they also want to keep their jobs. I mean, these people have got mortgages. You know, this is their career, and they are looking at electoral annihilation.